On this episode of the Chris Elliott Real Estate Show, we're doing our Halloween episode talking about the scariest things you can do in real estate. And now to the show.
Welcome to the Chris Elliott Real Estate Show, where we bring you insights into the local Central Virginia real estate market, go in depth to answer your real estate questions and concerns, and interview local figures and influencers in the greater Richmond area. And now let's get to the latest episode with your host, Chris Elliott, and co-host, Maddie Wright.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Hello.
I am Chris Elliott, a.k.a. Peanut Butter.
I am Maddie Wright, a.k.a. Jelly.
Peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly time. Oh my goodness, this is fun.
I'll put in the dancing banana.
Yeah, thank you.
Please do,
Please
yeah.
do, please do. So today is not Halloween. We are actually recording this a week early, so we're just two idiots walking around the office in peanut butter and jelly
Can
costumes.
we leave this on all day?
You may wear it all day. I've got an appointment to go on later. And
So wear it to the appointment.
Yeah, I think if I show up in like a jelly or a peanut butter outfit, they're going to be like, no thanks. We don't want to list our $600,000
Well, they'll know that
house.
you have a personality and that you are down to earth guy.
So quick funny story about that. So I have an amazing client. She is a phenomenal investor. Sold multiple properties with her. Very well-to-do lady. Super nice, super fun, very successful, but very down to earth, very just approachable. So she invited Allie and I think Charlotte was probably like a year old at the time, to her house for a Halloween party. I think this was like 2 years ago. So I said, hey, like, is this like a costume party? She goes, oh yeah, costume party. So I was like, cool. So Allie and I were peanut butter and jelly that year. So we show up, this is also an opportunity for me to meet all of her well-to-do high-end friends that, make a lot of money and, opportunities there. So
Because you're an opportunist.
Yes, because I am an opportunist. So this was like the time for me to like rub shoulders, shake hands, kiss babies, like have introductions and stuff like that.
Kiss hands, shake babies.
That's right. So we're driving up to this neighborhood. It's like a $600,000-$700,000 price point neighborhood in Shore Pump, very well to do. I don't think there's a gate, but like I wouldn't be surprised if there was a gate kind of thing. Pulling up to the house, it's all Mercedes, Lexus, Audi, like you name it, it's there. So Allie and I, mid-20s couple, we're pulling, or late 20s couple, we're pulling up. We're
I was going to say, don't kid yourself.
Yeah, I'm a little older than that. Anyway, we're walking up to this house, and we're like, oh man, this is gonna be fun. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna rub shoulders, whatever. We walk in the house. My client, who I will not name, she was wearing a costume. And I think her, myself, and Allie were the three people wearing costumes.
That's where I was very afraid that the story was going.
Yeah. So we are the idiots standing around in peanut butter jelly costumes while these like very upper middle class folks are all just dressed down in street clothes.
Awesome.
And my client's like, hey, this is my realtor. And I'm like, yeah, let me talk to you about your most expensive asset,
Why didn't you just take your costumes off?
Because then I'm just standing around in a t-shirt looking like more of an idiot.
You gotta commit.
Yeah. So
You gotta commit.
Yeah, you got to commit at that point. It's like you can't go back. So anyway, emotionally scarred from this outfit.
Is it worse than your first client party or?
Yeah, let's not go there.
I love that story.
Hey, if you know a good transaction coordinator, we are hiring, looking to replace.
That's the second time you've threatened me with that this week.
Probably won't be the last.
Probably not.
All right, so what are we talking about today?
We're talking about the scariest things you can do in real estate.
All right, and Daniel's gonna like edit in some ghost and some spooky,
There will be some lightning.
Ooh, yeah, some of that. Okay, so what we thought we would do today is talk about some, not do's and don'ts, but just don'ts in real estate. Some of the scariest things that you can do in real estate that maybe you don't realize.
Are you going to share some personal real estate horror stories as well?
I probably will. I won't name names.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, so we might sew in some stories from previous clients, but things that you may not think are necessarily scary, but as somebody who knows the business, who's seen, deals go south, who's somebody, seen things go wrong, We're going to be talking about some of the scariest things that you can do. So, Maddie, if you would be kind enough, what we'll do is we'll just bounce from buying to selling, buying, selling, buying, selling, buying, selling.
Oh,
and then if we run out of time, we run out of time. But just fire away at me, and we will go through them one by one.
All right. So as far as buying, not getting a survey.
Not getting a survey. So as a buyer, you always have the option, and we recommend to all of our clients to get a survey of the property. What a survey is when they actually go out and measure the property lines of the property. They mark off all the utilities, all the easements. They show you where the house is.
Why is that so scary if you don't do it?
Because in our contract does not specify the meets and bounds, the boundary lines. It just specifies this is the legal description. This is the address that you are buying. So where this can go really, really wrong, this actually didn't happen to me. This happened to somebody else, but an attorney that we used one time I always forget, I can't say clients' names. But the attorney they used told a story of how somebody bought land in the country. Okay. It was originally like a huge parcel of land in
God's country,
Hanover. I'm pretty sure it was Hanover. The owner owned like 50 acres. So they parceled off like 20 acres, and then this family bought 20 acres, and then they closed on the land, didn't get a survey, which is crazy.
It's a lot of land, 20 acres.
It is a lot of land. And then like 3 years later, they got the idea of like, hey, we're gonna subdivide this even more into five. We're gonna cut off 2 5-acre parcels. We're gonna keep, whatever that is, 10 acres for ourselves, and then we're gonna sell these 2 5-acre lots. Well, come to find out, so they had to get a survey done when they did this. Come to find out, the original survey from the original owner was not done correctly. And the way it actually surveyed out, their house that they bought on the land was actually part of the previous owner's property and still was.
Oh, no.
So they basically paid however much they paid to buy a house and buy land that technically on paper belonged to somebody else.
Oh, never mind. That wasn't a relevant question. I was going to say, do they have title insurance?
Well, yeah, so hopefully they did. And he said they were able to get it worked out, but it was a legal nightmare and a lot of attorney's fees later. You could easily spend 10 grand getting that cleaned up.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Probably.
And a survey, on most of your residential lots, a survey is going to run you about $500, give or take.
What could have happened? Could they have just been like, yeah, this is ours now, and kicked them out?
I think if they wanted to press the issue, then yeah, they could have said, hey,
oh no,
you guys screwed up. Sorry, do not collect go. Do not. I'll give you
do not collect go. Do not pass $200.
Yeah, that's what I said. I have like dyslexia of the mouth. Like I say stuff backwards. Did you notice that?
Yeah, and you can't spell, so you might actually be dyslexic. You might have a serious problem.
I very well could. I'll give you another scenario though. I had a client. They bought a house in a subdivision in Glen Ellen. I told them to get a survey. They didn't get a survey. The listing agent had told us the property line actually set in front of the fence set in front of the property line. She said the property line is actually a couple feet behind the actual fence. So, 9 months later, they were like, hey, we want to push this fence back if we can. So they got a survey. They found out that the property line was actually 12 feet behind the fence. Yeah. A lot of space.
Yeah.
So
That's a ton.
it was a win for them because they found out that they had 12 more feet of property than they thought they had. But you can imagine how pissed the people that lived behind them were when they found out they had 12 feet less of yard.
Sucks to be them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, once again, that is why you get surveys, because those are things that you do not know.
Well, a lot of people
Until you
that
get a survey.
buy our listings also don't get surveys. Have you noticed that?
Well, yeah, no, I have. Here's what it is it's not a required thing. And it usually the question gets asked after you've been under contract, after you've spent money on an inspection. And what it tends to be is like people see it as like an upsell or like one more thing, or, we're already spending all this much money, closing costs, blah, blah, blah. So they're like, well, we don't want to spend that money. There's a fence up. I'm sure it's fine. Spade and neuter your dogs. Get surveys when you buy your property.
Adopt, don't shop.
I didn't say that.
I said that.
Moving on.
Oh, wait, I had another question about this. Can't you just, if you're representing the buyer, can't you just ask them if they have a previous survey instead of getting it done yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. You can. ask them if they have a previous survey, and that's one thing. But the other thing is, has that owner, between the time they got the survey and the time that they are selling the property, done something that would be an issue on that survey?
Like built up fence or put up a shed, or
have they, or more importantly, has their neighbor put a shed up on the property line? Have they paved a driveway where a foot of that is encroaching on your property? You know, you never really know what you're buying until you get a survey and they detail that stuff out. And here's the thing, if you get a survey and there's an issue, you now flip that on the seller and you say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we've got a problem here. You guys need to fix it before we close.
yeah.
Versus you find out after the fact and now there's no recourse to go back on that seller. You bought the property, you didn't do the survey, now it's your problem to fix.
Also, one more thing. I know we need to move on, but this is gonna be quick, hopefully. So let's
You're burning.
say
You get 3 questions the whole show.
Sorry. Okay, well, that's not gonna work. So let's say like you know that your neighbor. Let's say you know your neighbor paved this driveway, and then you find out that it's a foot on your property, and you're like, screw it, it's a foot. I don't care. You let them keep it like that. You don't push it or anything.
Yeah.
If you go to sell your house, do you have to tell people? Like, do you have to disclose that that's a thing?
That is a good one.
I know.
Yeah, you kind of stumped the chump there.
Haha, yes.
I don't know the answer to that, and we are not attorneys, so we can't give legal advice on this show. But yeah, that's something I'd have to check on. I think it's always better just legally and ethically and kind of morally disclose is kind of my default. Honesty is always usually the best policy.
On the other hand, caveat emptor.
Caveat emptor, but if you have a known defect, or I don't know if that would be considered a defect. I don't know the answer to that question. Yeah, you stumped the chump.
Only took 9 episodes.
2 points to Maddie. Yep.
Only 2? I deserve more than that. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on.
For selling, you can sell for sale by owner.
For sale by owner, this one, I'm going to ruffle some. We're going to get some hate mail on this one.
Oh, I love hate mail.
Yeah.
Means you're making an impact.
Or just pissing people off, one of the two. So obviously
both.
this might seem like a, what do you call that? A self-interested statement. Daniel, what do you call that?
Like conflict of interest.
This might seem like a conflict of interest, that we're lining our own pockets by saying for sale by owner. When you sell for sale by owner, you have a couple disadvantages that you need to be aware of. Now, some people pull it off. Tons of people are successful or they sell their properties for sale by owner. So obviously it works. I mean, we're not here to say you can't sell property by yourself.
Why would you though?
Well, I think the perception is I'm saving 3% commission. I'm saving 6% commission. The thing we always encourage people to think of or question them on is, okay, you quote unquote, you save the commission. So let's just say easy numbers, a $300,000 house times 6%. What is that? I should probably know those numbers.
300 times 6%. Isn't that 10?
Okay, it's 18,000 on 300,000.
Nope. I suck.
So a lot of people look at that and they say, "Oh my gosh, $18,000! I do not want to pay that. I can do this myself." Most realtors are idiots, which there's probably some truth to that. Here's what you got to consider though: is you might be able to sell your property yourself, but are you shortchanging yourself as far as what you're able to get the property sold for because of the limited marketing exposure that you have?
Yeah.
Because of your lack of knowledge and expertise, are you going to get yourself into a deal with maybe a bad buyer? Is the deal going to fall apart because you don't know what you're doing? You're kind of like the dog that caught the ice cream truck. You ever heard that analogy?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So dogs like to chase ice cream trucks, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've mostly heard that they like to chase mail trucks.
Yeah, that too. What does the dog do once it catches it?
I don't know. I've never seen a dog catch one.
Yeah. Well, the thing is it doesn't know what to do when it catches one. So
my dog chases squirrels and deer, but he doesn't know that deer would ruin his life if he got that close.
Yeah. Yeah. So but yeah, so you got to think like, are we really saving money if we're not able to properly market the property? Are we really saving money if it takes you forever to get the property sold because, ineffective marketing and it just takes longer? You don't really know how to negotiate, or you don't know what to negotiate or what to be mindful of. You just don't know what you don't know. So those are a couple scary aspects there.
Yeah. But what about like So if they wanted to sell it for sale by owner, then they could always just sign an agreement with an agent to say, hey, I'm going to put it on the MLS for you and then give them a cut of the proceeds. So that solves one problem.
Yeah, so there's options there. You can flat fee list it, which basically, you pay an agent a couple $100 just to post on the MLS. I would say, just because you have access to that, it still doesn't mean that you're solving that problem. Kind of like going to WebMD and having that information still doesn't make me a doctor.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So
makes you a hypochondriac.
Yeah, that's what I've heard with WebMD.
I was like, hold on, did you not know what that word means?
Like everything is cancer when you look at the symptoms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why we have a rule of thumb in my world not to look things up on WebMD. You ask your mom.
Nice.
Shout out to you, Kelly.
All right, so we had to do a quick edit, get Maddie's laptop out of the way.
I tried to say that it was better if you can't see me, but apparently that's not kosher in this.
Can't see me, dog. All right, move on.
Okay. As far as buying, not getting title insurance.
Not getting title insurance.
But Chris, what's title insurance?
It's a good question. Title insurance basically protects you as the owner against any previous owners. If there was any defects in title prior to you buying the property. So in other words, if it wasn't transferred properly from one previous owner to another previous owner, or wasn't transferred properly to you, or if there was any, mechanics liens against the property, all of those things are encompassed by title insurance. If you're getting a mortgage on the property, the lender is going to get lender's title insurance, and they're going to mandate that you pay for that. But keep in mind, so there's two different title insurance policies. There's owner's title insurance and there's lender's title insurance. Lender's title insurance protects the lender. It does not protect you. Okay. And then once that loan gets paid off, if you're still in that house, you're not covered under that policy. And there's a lot of benefits in an enhanced owner's title policy. That's another show for another day, but we always recommend our folks get title insurance. It's really not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. You're buying a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 house. Owner's title insurance usually runs, I think it's based on the price of the house, but usually it's like $1,500 plus or minus.
A year?
No. One time.
Oh.
One time. And the amount of coverage you get is phenomenal. I mean,
so you can pay that out of closing?
Yeah, you pay it at closing. It's part of your closing cost.
Oh, interesting.
Absolutely. I'm going to force that upon you when you buy your home, even though we're not supposed to force that upon you. I'm going to inflict pain if you don't get owner's title insurance.
Inflict emotional pain or physical pain?
Psychological.
I could deal with that.
Yeah.
As long as it's not physical pain.
No, that's against the law.
I'm a wimp when it comes to physical pain. So.
Emotional pain, I mean, that's a little trickier to...
It's a legal gray area.
It's a gray area.
We don't have an HR representative, so I'm kind of not protected.
Moving on.
I don't have employer's insurance.
Moving on.
Selling with a discount agent.
Yeah, once again, we're going to ruffle some feathers.
Some feathers in my family.
Yep. So here's the deal. There are agents, there are firms out there that will, we got to be careful we don't violate fair trade or anything like that. But there are agents that will charge less commission. We'll just say that. And a lot of people see that as, oh, I want the discount, I want the deal. All you realtors do the same thing. And there is some degree of truth to that. There's a lot of agents that really don't do much. And honestly, if that's all that you see or that's all you know, then yeah, if they're all just post slapping in the MLS, why wouldn't I just go with the cheapest option? Like if I can buy this cell phone anywhere, why wouldn't I just go to Amazon or go to Samsung directly and buy it? What you got to realize is small percentage, but there are agents out there that provide a higher level of service and can, and
slight narcissism, but it's fine.
But can also produce a higher result as far as getting a property sold faster and getting a property sold for more money, thus netting you more money than even if you were to get a quote unquote discount on your commission. So you got to ask agents the tough questions as far as, what percentage of list price to sales price they're getting their home sold, how quickly are they getting their home sold, how much of a concession are their clients historically having to make? Do they have a demonstrable record of being able to get their clients more money? Not to toot our own horn, but we have that. And we're not afraid of those questions because we have that information to show people. There are a lot of agents out there charging full commissions that don't. And should they get, a full commission? Should they get a higher commission? Probably not, to be very honest with you. Wouldn't be upset if all those people fell out of the business. Because I feel like, but those are the folks that give realtors a bad name. But
yeah,
I'm getting all fired up. Do your research and find out if you're getting a discount, quote unquote, on the commission. Are you truly getting a discount when it comes to your net proceeds? Because at the end of the day, typically they're not offering as much service, which ultimately is going to net you less money on the sale.
Well, at the end of the day, yeah. Well, at the end of the day, you get what you pay for. And that's not
most of the times. Yeah.
Yeah. That's part of it here. It's not, this isn't an exception.
Yes.
It seems like a no-brainer, like coming from a non-real estate person, that you would just find somebody who knows what they're doing and does it well. Even if you pay a little bit more, is worth the peace of mind.
Plus,
time.
if you're a buyer and you're debating on, an agent, like you're not really, the sellers are the one that pay the commission.
Well, so Daniel, here's the analogy we always give people.
Sure.
If you had to get heart surgery, now I'm not a heart surgeon, never pretended to be one. But if you had to get heart surgery, would you necessarily, and like you were going to die if you were going to get heart surgery, would you necessarily go out and try to find the cheapest heart surgeon, or would you find the best heart surgeon that's done this procedure dozens upon dozens of times and had the best track record as far as getting people out alive?
Yeah,
Depends on the desired outcome.
I don't want to go to the first year resident. I want somebody with 15, 20 years experience that is like really good at this and has a track record for being great. Like, I want to do that, right?
Yeah.
I want to go to somebody that's experienced and does it really well, because it's really important. Hearts, obviously, life or death. Houses, not life or death, but incredibly important to your life, right?
Yeah. So we're not talking about heart surgery, but we are talking about the sale of what's most likely one of your largest, if not your largest asset. And when you get down to it, I mean, you might be saving, quote unquote, $2,000 on real estate commissions, but it's costing you $10,000 on what you're able to sell your property for, because you've got some, I won't use vulgar language, but you've got an agent that doesn't know what they're doing, running your listing and costing you that money. So just something to be mindful of. Anyway, I'm going to step off my soapbox.
Continue.
Let's move on to the next one.
Buying direct from a site rep on new construction. I skipped something. I'm sorry. Going back. Using a cheap home inspector.
Yeah. So
sorry, I can't read.
No, that's fine. We kind of knew that when we hired you.
Thanks.
So Daniel had a conversation with Maddie because there was some miscommunication as far as I said, hey, she said, hey, the house is cold. I said, yeah, turn the heat on and leave it at 65. And then she goes, hey, I left the AC on at 65. I said,
because the AC was on when I got there. I wanted to leave the house how I found it as to not get you or myself in trouble. I was trying to be mindful of us.
So Daniel, in the most deadpan voice with the most serious face, goes, well, so this is how heat works.
Can we have a show about mansplaining? Because I was very heavily mansplained in that moment, and I work with two men. So I just feel I need to educate you on how to appropriately talk to women.
I worked in a game store. That's all mansplaining.
Oh, yeah, I know. I walked into that game store and they were like, oh, woman, let me explain things to her that... Because obviously she doesn't know things because she's a woman.
Yeah, but you know how heat works?
No, apparently not. That's how my everyday is. Oh, you don't know things because you're a woman. I don't have an HR rep, so...
Well, guys at video game stores probably don't see many women.
No, well...
Boom!
There's probably
sorry,
many
that was
different...
a little bit of a dig. Didn't mean it. Just kidding. Saw an opportunity and I took it.
Now you have completely eliminated the video game store people demographic from our viewers.
Yikes.
So you've really ruffled feathers now. Feathers have been ruffled.
If we ever get into the mom's basement selling business, we're never going to be profitable.
Yeah.
Parcel out the basement.
All right. Moving on. What's the next one?
Using a cheap home inspector.
Yeah, this is another one. Penny wise, pound foolish. When you're buying a home, you don't want to find the cheapest home inspector. You don't want to skip certain inspections just because you're looking to save money. You're buying a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 asset and paying somebody $500 to inspect it and make sure that everything is up to snuff is an absolute no-brainer.
You'd think, right?
You would think. I mean, it's crazy the type of stuff we see, though. where you have inspectors that just blatantly miss stuff. And granted, every inspector is going to miss something here or there. It happens. But what's also a big one is that I always think is funny is the inspectors that produce a really crappy inspection report where they don't provide adequate pictures, or the report's really disorganized, or it's just not, they're not putting their case forward very well. What happens is when those buyers make repairs requests of us, it's hard to justify what they're asking for because there's no pictures of, like you're saying, there's quote unquote mold in the crawl space. There's no pictures of this mold. This report looks like crap. This person basically doesn't look professional, doesn't look like they know what they're talking about. And then it makes it harder on the buyer to get those repairs concessions because they've got a report that looks like, it's like, going to court and your expert witness has like mustard on his tie. And you're just like, how are we supposed to believe this guy that, whatever. Does that make sense?
I don't feel like that's comparable. I feel like one is a general error.
We're gonna edit that section out. All right, moving on.
Good try though.
Moving on.
Not prepping your home to hit the market.
Yeah. So when you're selling, not prepping your home to hit the market, we see this in hot markets like we've been in, where people just get this idea that I can just slap it on the market and it's gonna sell because, we upgraded the toilet 5 years ago, or people just get this inflated sense of anything will sell no matter what. So we're just going to slap it on the market and we're not going to follow best practices as far as getting the home ready and getting it prepped and getting it look right. On all of our listings, we typically send out a staging consultant.
We don't make that mistake.
No, we don't. We send out a staging consultant on all of our listings to help our clients prep their home for market. And I tell people, like in these hot markets, are there people that are not doing everything that they should to get their home ready and still selling? Yes. But at that point, you're not really taking full advantage of the hot market we're in. You're basically just skating by. The home might be selling, but the home probably is selling for less money than it potentially could.
Also, you probably just got lucky.
Yeah, you probably get lucky.
Could just be a fluke.
You could get lucky, and that happens. But at the end of the day, if you're not like prepping the home right, it might still sell. But the scary part is it probably is going to be selling for less money than it should.
That's really scary.
Yeah, that's very scary.
I'm really scared.
All right, moving on.
Buying direct from a site rep on new construction.
Do you know what I mean?
No clue.
Okay. So this happens when folks are buying new construction. They walk onto the new construction lot and you've got a very well-trained, very attractive, handsome, whatever site rep that's very excited to see you, very friendly. And they say, hey, you don't need an agent representing you. We can guide you through this whole process and maybe we can get you a better deal if you didn't have an agent.
That's how they take advantage of you.
We don't want to throw all site reps under the bus. This is not everybody. I've certainly met some, but the reality is that site rep works for the builder. They are either employed by the builder or they have a legal representation agreement with the builder. They are there to sell you a property. They're not there to look out for your best interest. They're there to look out for the interest of the builder. So whatever discount you think you're getting, you're probably not getting, honestly. They're probably giving you concessions that they'd be willing to give anybody. And sometimes, that deal is not necessarily the best deal that you can get. Most of your big home builders have already built it into their margins, their business plans to accommodate for a buyer's agent. And it's generally just a better idea to have somebody that's in your corner representing your interest, that has been through this process before, knows what to look out for, knows when to call BS on the builder when they're saying something that ain't so, or,
It's like when you go to like one of those technology stores, which is funny because, you used to be one of those technology guys.
Yeah.
And you don't know anything about technology and you just let the technology rep like talk you into all this extra stuff that you don't need and you don't know that you don't need it because you don't know things.
Yeah.
I used to be one of those people, and I walked into one of those stores the other day and there was a guy gassing someone up to buy like a $4,000 camera setup when he was looking for a point and shoot. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to fall in. I will tell you straight up, I am one of those people who will walk into one of those stores, not know anything, and let someone talk me into something that I don't need because, I don't know any better.
And it's a lot easier to fall into traps like that than you would think. Like smart people do it all the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's under the guise of, I'm going to save a couple bucks because I don't have an agent. Now, if I told you in that same scenario that there were consultants out there that didn't cost you anything out of pocket, but they can walk into that store with you. They can tell you, this is what you need. This is what you don't need. Hey, you need this, all this other stuff. Forget that. You really don't need it.
I don't know if I can trust that guy though.
Trust which guy?
The guy that comes in and says, you need this, you need that.
Well, I mean, that's a different conversation, but obviously if you have a knowledgeable professional that you know is in your corner, that can guide you through that process, it's a much better deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't end up a sucker like me.
Yes.
You wouldn't want to be like that.
All right, moving on.
The show about my self-deprecation.
Yes.
Overpricing.
Overpricing, once again, happens a lot in a hot market where folks just think, hey, we can just be like crazy out of bounds, ambitious on pricing that make, post a price that has no basis in fact or actuality. Or it's more of like, hey, let's start high and then we can let somebody work us down or we can reduce after the fact. The problem with that is even in a hot market, if you overprice your home, it's going to end up sitting. And then the longer a home is on the market, the less the perceived value is on it. One of the first questions we always have when we're showing buyer clients properties is, what would you imagine one of the first questions is anytime they walk into a new home?
I don't know.
They ask, Maddie's awesome.
I've never done this.
No, one of the first questions is, how long has this home been on the market? And why do you think
Is
they're
that really
asking
something
that?
people ask you that often?
Yeah.
Because the higher, we talked about this in a podcast previously, but the higher the days on market, the more it could be perceived that there's something wrong with it.
Yeah, so either a perception that something's wrong with it or the perception is that it's not worth what it's listed for. So what happens is, like, let's say you have a $300,000 property that should be priced at $300,000. You're like, I'm going to list at $350,000 and then, work myself down in price eventually, or let somebody else make me a lower offer. By the time you actually, let's say it doesn't sell at $350,000, doesn't sell at $325,000. By the time you get down to $300,000 and you've been on the market for 30, 60, 90 days, you could ultimately sell less for less than $300,000 because the perception is it's not worth $300,000 because it's been on the market for 90 days, even though you've been on, you just made that reduction down to $300,000.
Yeah, people probably would view it as a Hail Mary, not like this is where we should have been all along.
Yeah.
Step.
Absolutely.
If they don't know any better.
Absolutely.
Moving on. Buying a for sale by owner.
Whew. Once again, going to ruffle some feathers.
Ooh, feather ruffling.
Could sound like a conflict of interest. We don't try to steer people away from for sale by, buyers from for sale by owners. The reality is, though, when you've got somebody that's selling their property on their own, number one, you're dealing with the principal in the transaction, meaning you're actually dealing with the homeowner. When buying or selling a home, it can be a very stressful, it can be a very emotional process. So one of the key benefits of an agent is they kind of serve as that buffer in between their clients of like, we're going to talk them off the edge, or we're going to calm them down or something like that. When you're dealing with a for sale by owner, you're dealing direct with the homeowner who may or may not be able to handle the stress of the situation. So they can be a little crazy sometimes. The other thing is a lot of them overprice their homes because, once again, they have nobody, sitting there telling them, hey, this number is crazy for X, Y, and Z reason. And then the other thing is, once you contract with a for sale by owner, it's been my experience, it's very hard to do a transaction with them because you're dealing with somebody who doesn't know the process. They don't know the steps in the process, and then they don't trust you as the agent on the other side because you're the person telling them, hey, we typically do X, Y, and Z, but I don't represent them. I represent my clients. So they think we're trying to get one over on them versus just facilitating the transaction. Just know if you buy a for sale by owner, we're here to help, but it's probably going to be a bumpier ride than it would be if you were just buying a home listed with another agent. Not to say every agent is easy to work with. I've dealt with plenty that aren't. Maddie's
Chris Elliott is a terrible agent. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
He's the hardest one to work with. Take it from the TC.
Yeah. But I mean, Anyway, not all agents are easy to work with, but by and large, for sale by owners could be a little tricky. We've had some clients that have gone through hell to close on a transaction with a for sale by owner.
Plus, like from our perspective, if we're representing the buyer on a for sale by owner, they can ask us stuff that like would put you in a position to kind of like not be their agent, but just stuff that you shouldn't be. Like you're not going to say that, obviously, things that you shouldn't be telling them because you're not their agent, but they'll try and get you to do stuff for them, even though.
It's just a weird interaction the whole time. It's kind of the equivalent of two parties going to court, like suing each other, and
they have the same lawyer.
No, one has an attorney and the other one's representing themselves. Like it's just
that makes more sense.
it's a weird interaction because that person representing themselves probably has no clue what they're doing.
Yeah.
Or thinks they know what they're doing, which is scarier. Anyway, moving on.
Not responding to the market. I don't know what this means either.
Okay. So not responding to the market is basically you don't come to terms with that you've got issues on the condition of your home. Like you're like, hey, this wallpaper is that was cool really in the 70s is still hip or whatever. You're not willing to address the elephant in the room in regards to the condition of your property. You're not willing to paint or do carpet or, change something out, even though you've gotten feedback that that's an issue.
Is this a feather ruffler?
I think they all are.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or you're just not realistic in the fact that, your price is not getting it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it's tough because sometimes we've had a couple listings so far this year where when we sat down and we originally listed the property, we're always looking at kind of the market in review. We're looking at what's happened in the past and we're looking at, okay, based on what's happened previously, this price should sell. And then you hit the market and it doesn't. And then you can no longer really rely on what's happened in the past. You more have to look at, these are the market forces at play right now, whether it's a new construction development that's open that you're competing with, whether there's been an influx of competitive inventory. So now, whereas before you were one of 3 listings, now you're one of 10 and it's a little bit tougher. But you just have to respond to the market. At the end of the day, the market kind of determines what a property is worth and what it should sell for and all those things.
Yep. All right. Buying direct from the listing agent.
Yeah, so this one's kind of...
you mean without like a buyer's agent?
Yeah, this one's kind of like buying from the site rep. A lot of people think they're getting a deal if they buy the property directly from the listing agent. Hey, I don't have a buyer's agent, so you charge your client less of a commission. I can get less of a price. Once again, you don't know what you don't know. That listing agent does not represent you 99% of the time. They represent the seller. They've got the seller's best interest at heart, and they're legally responsible for. So once again, you're kind of flying blind into a transaction with trusting that the other party is just going to do the right thing, and they're probably going to be ethical, but they're not looking out for your fiduciary interest at the end of the day.
But they could also just not be ethical. Like if you know that, I'd like to think if we had a buyer and we were representing the seller and they didn't have an agent, I like to think that we would not take advantage of them, but
so here's the thing:
could.
is we tell unrepresented buyers, hey, look, we're going to be ethical. We're going to facilitate the transaction. We're going to be fair. But at the end of the day, if it comes down to it, our fiduciary responsibility is to our clients. We've signed a legal agreement to represent them, just like an attorney does, just like a doctor does, or whatever. So we're not here to look out for your best interest. That's not the agreement that we've signed. And we tell that to people up front. I say, if you're cool with that, we can work this out, but just know that going forward, we're going to sign something to that effect. So I just think a lot of people think they're going to get this deal, a better deal. Once again, penny wise, pound foolish.
I've never heard that expression before.
You're smart about your pennies, but you're silly about your dollars. Or it's another way.
Well, I know what it means. I just mean I've never heard it before.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Or did you explain it because I'm a woman?
Wow.
Kidding.
Wow.
It's a joke.
Ice.
I referenced back our other conversation about mansplaining.
Oof.
I connected one part of the podcast to another.
Okay.
Amazing.
Let's do one more on selling, and then let's go to the fire round.
Okay. Using an agent because they're a friend. But don't you want your friends to use you? We
do. But here's the thing. You got to know that person is qualified and knows what the heck they're doing. And I've told friends, I've told family, I don't want you to use me because we're friends or family. I mean, I guess I'll take it if they're willing to do it. But I want friends and family to know that Chris is a competent agent. He knows what the heck he's doing. He's good at what he does. And oh, by the way, he just happens to be a family member or a friend. And I see this a lot where, I mean, the crazy part is you see these people with like $600,000 houses and they list them with their, best friend who just got their license. And this is their third transaction. I mean, that could, like, your friend screwing this up could literally cost you $20,000. Easy. So, I like doing business with friends. I like doing business with family. But at the end of the day, whatever you're hiring them for, they've got to know what they're doing. They got to be good at it, and they got to be competent. Don't sacrifice your equity just because you don't want to upset a friend. And I've had those conversations where, like, a home doesn't sell. We call the owner and we're like, hey, are you open to interviewing other agents? They said, no, I can't disappoint this friend. I can't disappoint this family member. And I'm like, they haven't been able to get your home sold. Sticking with them could easily cost you $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Like, at the end of the day, you got to make a business decision. And you just got to love them still, but love them enough and say, we got to move on. And honestly, if you're that agent and you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't put your friends or your family in that position of guilting them into using you when you know it's not in their best interest.
Yeah. That's a tough call to make.
Sorry. I think with that, it's like using somebody as your agent because they're your family or friend versus using one that is family or friend that is qualified for it, right?
Yeah.
It's a big thing. It's like if, Maddie, I wanted you to represent me.
Big mistake.
Brand new. I would use somebody like Chris if I didn't know him and I only knew you because I know that great person.
I would tell you to go to Chris.
But yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, okay. All right.
That's what I tell all my family and friends. I'm like, cool. There you go.
That's also because Maddie gets referral fees.
Oh, I didn't know if I should say that.
Ooh, we just outed her.
Well, no, I just didn't know. I was trying to protect your best interest and not throw you under the bus.
No. But
family and friends, use him. I get money.
we're just throwing Maddie under the bus.
I'm fine with that.
All right, let's move on to the fire round. All right, so the fire round, we pick 5 questions out from the social mediums and answer those. So we put a poll out on Instagram and our Facebook page of what scares people the most about real estate. And we're going to rattle off and answer those real quick in the next 9 minutes.
All right. What scared you personally about real estate before starting your career?
Ooh, okay. So this is not what I thought it was going to be, but all right. What scared me personally about real estate? Jumping from a secure job, relatively secure, where I got a regular paycheck to real estate where there is no guarantees. So that was like a scary, plus starting any new sales career, it takes a little while to kind of build up. So yeah, running out of money and starving and dying under a bridge.
Has it been worth it?
Yeah, it's been worth it. It was it was like kind of scary starting out. It's like a dark 6 months getting going, but
yeah. Anyway,
glad I made a decision.
On not using an agent. If you go under contract without an agent and you realize you need help, can you just add one? Throw one in there real quick?
Sometimes you can. It does make it tricky because basically you've cut a deal not having an agent. So sometimes maybe that listing agent cut a deal to their seller because there was no agent involved. So we've had this happen. We've got a builder that works out of our office, and they've dealt with this on new construction where you get a buyer that shows up, they don't want to have an agent, they want the deal, and then they get halfway into it and they're the dog that caught the ice cream truck, and they realize they have no clue what they're doing and nobody's in their corner. So then they want to add an agent. Best just to start off on the right foot and have somebody represent you from the get-go.
All right. What steps should you take to ensure you found the right agent?
This sounds like a podcast topic.
Good idea.
Yeah. I would say, first and foremost, you want to look at their track record. Do they have experience in your price point? Do they have experience in your area? How many sales do they do? What's their setup? Are they a one-man band? Do they have a team where there's a group of people working with them to make sure that no detail is missed? And then, and then I would say last, and this is important, do your personalities jive? Do you feel comfortable working with them? I wouldn't let that be like the first criteria, but it's definitely important that you connect with somebody.
Yeah, because you're working with them for months, and if it turns out you hate them, you're just going to be miserable.
Correct.
Okay. I'm getting half of my commission back from my agent. Does that make them worth using?
Yeah. So this is one kind of like using a discount agent. Is this buying or selling? Did they indicate?
Selling.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, it's the same thing as a discount agent. If they're so good at what they do, why are they giving you half their money back? And
they put it, or they're putting it under their ruse that they're doing it for a cause or something, which makes it.
Yeah. Or like, hey, they're a buddy. I mean, at the end of the day, you're never going to get a brand new Mercedes-Benz for $20,000.
But darn it, I wish I could.
Yeah. And if somebody says they're selling you a brand new Mercedes-Benz for $20,000,
don't be a fool.
yeah. I mean, there's a reason those cars cost the money that they cost is because they're high-end performance vehicles. So
it's my next car.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So I'll leave that at that.
All right. If you're an agent, obviously you can represent yourself, but should you?
Ooh, this is a good one. So I represented myself when my wife and I purchased our home.
Technically, you represented your wife.
Well, this is true. This is true. Yeah, so it was an interesting experience. I think as an agent, I would represent myself again, but it is kind of like the prisoners running the jail in the sense that...
That's a really funny analogy.
Well, I recognize in retrospect, there was nobody, I guess Gary, my broker, kind of helped me out, but there's nobody, your emotions do run high. I mean, that's half the value of an agent is to like talk you off the ledge. There was certainly some circumstances where I was going a little crazy just because of the stress of the deal and because I wasn't disconnected from the outcome, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Maybe I said things and did things that looking back I wouldn't. It just there's certainly value in having somebody that has been through the process before, but is not as emotionally charged as you might be or stressed as you might be, leading you through the process. A disinterested third party certainly helps.
Now that you have a team, would you do it yourself knowing that your team would kind of have your back?
That's a good question. I haven't made that decision yet.
Oh, I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
My feelings aren't hurt if you say no.
No, I mean, I probably still would, but I'd go into it with a little bit more awareness of like recognizing when I'm kind of like, not taking my own advice.
Oh, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Or you'll just remind me.
Oh,
so what I'm hearing
no
is that when Chris sells his house, you're representing him?
That's a podcast for another time.
Yeah. Probably not.
No. Last question. How did you get to be so smart and knowledgeable about real estate?
Well, thank you, whoever said that.
Certainly wasn't me.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Thanks.
Just kidding.
I would say it was a lot of training. It was a lot of heartache. It was a lot of learning on the job. It was a lot of just running into crazy situations. I mean, it's like half the stuff I know, oh my God, I would have rather not known this if I hadn't to go through. Like, we've got to deal with a septic system issue.
That makes me want to cry.
All types of stuff about crap, pun intended, that I wish I never had to find out about. I mean, so it's taking your licks, it's taking your knocks on the chin, and getting that much better, faster, stronger for the next one.
Okay, Christina Aguilera.
Yeah,
oh, that's Daft Punk, right?
Yeah, but no, it's going through a lot of crap and then coming out the other side with more knowledge about how to avoid that situation.
All right.
Yeah,
that's a very humble answer.
So we'll end on that note.
You can just leave it with I'm so smart and knowledgeable because I'm a smart and knowledgeable person.
No, I definitely didn't come out of the womb this smart. And some might argue that I'm not smart.
Well, they're not smart.
Anyway,
it's our official mantra on
that was
Real Estate Show.
That was show number 9. We hope you have an amazing Halloween. Be safe out there. We're going to get some Halloween tips. Emailed out to all of our client base.
Yes, we are.
Enjoy your candy. Don't eat too much. We'll see you on the next podcast.
Thanks for joining us for the Chris Elliott Real Estate Show. If you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, please contact Chris Elliott at chris@chriselliottrealestate.com or by phone at 804-980-1898. And please join us again next time for the Chris Elliott Real Estate Show.